Hi, I'm William McBurrow, and I'm joined here with Chris Foulon. I work as a fractional chief security officer for quite a few small businesses. I've been in the cybersecurity space for over 20 years, and working as an engineer, working as a consultant. One of the things that we found is that small businesses have a unique need of needing to build security risk management programs, primarily because the market demands it, and not having the knowledge or resources internal to the organizations to do so. And by virtue of that, they reach out to service providers, to consultants, to partner with them and help build this program. So one of the things that I do as a fractional security executive is I partner with my small business clients, and and part of what that does for me, working in the space as a security advisor over so many years, is that it really gives us a seat at the table and look at the implementation of security risk management from the client's perspective, right? And that means dealing with a lot of the challenges that you have with working with small businesses. Oftentimes, we are partnering with the CEOs, which is an acronym that I refer to as Chief Everything Officer, and not helping them build their security programs and manage their risk because of regulatory compliance, or because the industry expects it, or because their clients require it. So from time to time, I like to have conversations with fellow virtual security officer, fractional security officers. And I'm joined today by Chris, who is well versed in this space, and I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation about some of the challenges that we see, working with small businesses. So, Chris, welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Happy to be here. So my name is Christophe Foulon. I've been in IT and security for over 18 years and pivoted from being an internal security consultant where I was flexible and supported stakeholders internally, but I always used a coach consultant type perspective to it. So when I had the opportunity to pivot, I decided that I wanted to continue to provide that level of service, executive cybersecurity strategic services for small, medium-sized companies, and offer them a fractional CISO offering where I could go in and provide them with the strategic guidance that they often don't have because they're very focused on the tactical day-to-day items of running their business or trying to secure their technology stack, but might not think about the strategic aspect of it.
I can't help but think about the differences between, a coach and a consultant, right? A coach is walking alongside of you, meeting you where you are, helping you get better, right? A consultant, more often than not, is telling you the things, and then you go off and struggle to sort of, do these things. So I think bringing that perspective to the table, it can't help but be, to the benefit of the small businesses that you work with. And one of the things that we talked about is your work as a virtual CISO, as a fractional security executive. Now, how would you define that role, right? And how would you differentiate it from what we are currently seeing on the market today? And there's a lot of consulting firms, a lot of IT providers are, offering vCISO services. How would you sort of, compare and contrast what you provide and what you're frequently seeing being, offered by those service providers?
So often with those types of service providers, you're providing security consultants to help you with your security program, but they're often not that strategic resource that you need. Some of them might have senior individuals that have that strategic experience, but most of the times the statement of work has to be so defined for these consulting companies to get the contract that it just becomes just another consulting engagement where you come in and you deliver XYZ and this is how you prove that you did it versus coming in, say, as a coach or as a fractional CISO where you're coming in and you're going, these are the things that you need to get done. Let's help you get them done. For my clients that have longer term engagements, I'm acting as their CISO day to day within their organization at a fractional basis. So I'm not there 40 hours a week. I might be there 15, 20 hours a week. So they don't have that full-time resource, but they have that fractional resource that is thinking of things strategically, that is helping to plan out their budget for the next year, that is working with their application development team and infrastructure team to see what you're looking to achieve over the next year and how we can harmonize that in the roadmap with either tweaks into the infrastructure, tweaks into their offerings for their internal customers, or maybe they need to get some additional licenses so that they can have those capabilities to be able to deliver on those services, but they might not know how to go about researching that. So I would be the one that kind of comes in and helps them do that. And it's more of a partnership, just as if I were there being their CISO, but I'm not. So they don't have the liability or the overhead of having a C-level person within their organization because I'm my own LLC. I operate independently. So that's some of the pros and cons of having a fractional CISO.
Give me your thoughts on this. So oftentimes I think, and this is just based on my personal experience, is that you are fractional, resource with really full-time responsibilities. And
Yeah.
the reason that is that, yes, I might be dedicating 15 hours a week. I'm sorry, even at a smaller scale, 15, 20 hours a month to help build, guide, lead their security program. But I'm the only one doing that work, right? So although I'm managing my time in such a way that I'm investing a fraction of the full responsibility of building the security program is still on you, right? So if there's an issue, you're the one the client is going to turn to and say, hey, I have this problem. Hey, what do you think? Hey, we have this initiative. Hey, we got this email from our vendor, et cetera, et cetera. And rarely is a full-time responsibility. And I think there's the undervalued aspect of this is the peace of mind that it gives the client that I have someone to turn to. Because one of the questions that I often ask when I start a fractional engagement very shortly is, how did you operate when I wasn't here? Right? The decisions that I'm helping to make, I'm like, well, how did you handle this a month ago? Right? And oftentimes what you find is that they're just doing things, right? And so the need is certainly there. So I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on the fractional investment of time, but still the full-time responsibility.
Yeah, it really just comes around to right sizing the program for the client because oftentimes when they might only need or can only afford a fractional CISO, they might not need that full program that an enterprise organization might have. They might not need someone doing that full time. So it's about saying, okay, so for security awareness, what can we do that is reasonable for this organization? For vulnerability management, what's a reasonable way that we can help them with that? For managing their secrets, what's a reasonable way to do that? For checking their SaaS configurations and ensuring that you're not leaking their secrets to the world, what's a reasonable way to do that? So it's really kind of asking those questions and having that conversation with them about what we reasonably can do for their maturity, for their industry, for their requirements that they might have from their own customers, because they might be small, but their customers might have really high demands.
I mean, the word that you used right there that really reached out to me was maturity. I've always believed that maturity-based security program development is the only way. And what that means is that you're starting where they are,
Yeah.
right? And you're sort of moving them forward at the speed of business, right? I do a lot of work within the defense industry, and defense contractors have to meet the exact same security requirements as regardless of size, right? So if I'm working with a 20-person company or I'm working with a 5,000-person company, the requirements are the same, but how they implement them different, right? And you have to meet them where they are, and just throwing tools or defense at them is not really the answer. To need someone to sit at the table with them and help them and better understand their business processes, right? Their business goals and the actual capabilities and resources to get there. And I think that's very necessary. And that leads me to my next question is really what is the process that you go through when someone reaches out and say, Christophe, we need help. Can you help us?
Well, it's similar to a consulting engagement. You do have to scope ahead of time what their expectations are, what you're looking to achieve, what's their budget, how much time expectation are they looking to have, and then really help them set those expectations to what's reasonable based on their budget, based on what you're looking to achieve, and just have that back and forth with them that, oh, okay, so you're expecting 40 hours, but you really only could pay for 10 hours. Let's prioritize what we could do in those 10 hours to achieve the most bang for your buck, to help you get that next big contract so that you could pay for the next 30 hours and kind of work with them, mature with them so that you can grow with them and they'll stay with you and they'll refer you to other clients as well.
I couldn't agree more with that, But how do you deal with, unrealistic expectations?
You set them ahead of time. You have that conversation ahead of time. And then when there's scope creep, don't be afraid to call it out. You're your own business as a fractional CISO. You have to be running your profit and loss. You have to be managing your time. And when scope creep happens, you say, hey, our initial conversation or our initial terms said that we are going to do this, this, and this within these amount of hours. What you're asking will require this amount of hours. If that's a project that you want to take on next, we could do that after we complete this phase of the project. And then you can set up a phase delivery approach where if that's something that they feel is really important to do, that could be prioritized next on their list.
Great. With respect to that, what level of ownership do you assume of the outcome? And what I mean by that is, very often as consultants, you're coming in, you're doing a song and dance, whatever it is, you're providing a deliverable, right? And you are wishing the client, best of luck. Now, sometimes you offer to help them address whatever that, deliverable requires, but there's been so many times over the years as a consultant, I've been brought in to do assessments and to do audits primarily because a business need required that, right? Either for compliance purposes or, for whatever reason. But there's been so many times where you hand that client that deliverable with specific tailored recommendations, and you know that they're not equipped to do anything in that paper, right? Not only do they not have the resources to really do it, more often than not, they don't even have the inclination to do it. Right? A lot of the activities we do in the security space are activities that are driven by compliance requirements. And, sadly, there are a lot of companies out there that are, checking the boxes, right? But when you come on board, as a fractional exec, coach versus consultant now, and you're establishing goals with the organization, and you're establishing milestones, and you're sort of establishing deliverables and setting expectations. How much ownership do you take on yourself to carry that through to the end?
Me personally, I sometimes do get invested. I want them to succeed. So I do take some ownership into it. But I also set shared kind of like the shared responsibility model of a cloud service provider. I could be here to provide you with the service to even tell you what to do, but if you don't do it when I'm not here, you're not going to get the results that you're supposed to get. So I want to help and ensure that you gain the maturity that you need to so that you can continue this and we can develop tools and processes for you to continue to do this while I'm not here. And I get invested that I want to see that repeat. I want to see that, oh, this becomes something that we do versus, oh, yeah, we just did it at one time because we had an audit and that was it.
Yeah. In my view, I think it's really a partnership, right? Like you have to partner with me to walk this road, right? And I think that really feeds into maybe the vetting, right, of the client. Because there's a two-way vetting that occurs. There does to the belief that we're going to meet their needs, but we're vetting them as well. Are they the client that we want to partner with? Because taking on a fractional role is different than just doing consulting. And I think that those of us who work in this vein, I think there is a level of investment in that you get to see what's happening under the covers, right? You get to see the challenges that they have, and that they're partnering with you in good faith. Part of your role is to help them overcome those challenges, right? We need to do 5 things. You can only afford 2. Which of the 2 do we start and focus on, right? And these are things that, and a lot of times what I find is that when I start working with clients, I have to detangle them from what I would call misinformation, right? From security vendors, our own folks, right? One of the things that I say that often in my speaking engagements is that if I'm a vendor that is selling hammers, I'm only interested in your nails, right? I'm not asking you about your screws. And I'm saying that, hey, you need this hammer to hit all of those nails, and that is the most important thing, and that you need. And that's what happens, with especially with small businesses in the security industry, right? Everyone is selling that gadget, the tool that's supposed to be, sort of the be all end all. And as a small business, right, you don't know where to go with your limited dollars, limited time, limited resources. And I think that's why folks like fractional security executives are so important, because you are helping sort of provide that buffer between the business goals and the tools to get there, right? And I think that really speaks to where do you find your focus when you start? Is it really at the strategic level, or are you focused on tactical things? One of the things that I found is that more oftentimes when small businesses reach out to security leaders, they have tactical needs, right, that are going unmet, and they're saying, I need someone to come in and help me solve this. They're not thinking, hey, come in and help me create a 5-year roadmap, right? So I mean, where do you stand on that?
Well, of course, you help them with the tactical stuff, but you also want to balance the need for that strategic growth. So they might have an audit, they might have something that's important to them right then and there, but if you don't help them with their program maturity, it's going to come back and bite them in a year. So you help them set up the framework, you help them set up what they need to be successful in 2, 3 years. You just don't limit your scope to where you are plus 6 months. You want them to be successful in the next 24 to 48 months. I think past that, there's too much of a variable for change. There's too much of a variable for growth, pivot in what you're providing. So I think that 2 to 4 year windows, like that sweet spot of how to help them plan to be successful and guide them down that strategic path.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, right? So what is the approach that you take to ensure that you're aligning, right, their security program with, the business goals, right? Because very often, a lot of businesses see, security as a cost center, right? It's something that I have to do, that I have to spend precious resources on. And if I don't do it, I might get breached or I might miss on, business opportunities due to compliance, etc. But how do you help these clients really start to see security as an enabler, right, to bigger and better things than just, oh my gosh, the government is making me do this or the industry is making me do this?
Well, say, okay, the government might be making you to do this, but as you grow, what sort of clients are you going to want to focus on? You're
Yeah.
going to want to focus on bigger clients or more strategic clients or multinational clients. Okay. What sort of requirements are those clients going to have of you in order for you to service them? And then you look at it like that. So you prep them for what you're going to need to do to be successful for their clients. And that could be having a more mature security program versus having just a GRC program.
Yeah.
That could be tackling some of their SaaS that the first thing this more mature vendor is going to do is scan their environment externally and go, look at all these misconfigurations. This could be a sign for what they have inside and might not want to take the risk on that. So pass on this one. So you kind of help them with these are the types of expectations that you're going to have from your bigger clients in order to be successful. So these are the types of things that you have to do, not just because some regulations said you do it, but because the customers that you want that's going to pay you are requiring it.
Yeah. Business enabler.
Yes, exactly.
You know, what you mentioned about, external scanning, right? And I've my views on external scanning has really been that, it is a scan of your, internet accessible assets, and it's not necessarily giving you a fuller security risk posture of the organization. Although the vendors that are marketing this scan present it as if, it's sort of the be all and end all. And I've always been, had a jaded eye at those types of services, understanding what it takes to really assess an organization. However, what I haven't done is thought about it from the perspective that you just shared, that, sometimes that it doesn't show a full risk picture of the organization, but it can be an indicator of their approach to security. And
Yes.
that in itself is a key data point, right?
Yes.
And I think that is very true. And that's something that I had sort of thought about, the fact that, yeah, if you are not addressing the clear vulnerabilities in your external footprint, low-hanging fruit there, what else are you not doing internally, right? From a risk management perspective, IT infrastructure management perspective, employee training and management, perspective, and that as an indicator of an organization's approach to security is something that I think that I've never seen in that light before.
I look at it like you're buying a house or you're going to rent a house.
Yeah,
The first thing you do is you look at the curb appeal.
yeah,
If
yeah. Curb appeal, that I like.
if you're in a bad neighborhood and you're the best looking house, okay, great. That sets you apart. So
Yeah,
you compared to your competitors, the fact that you look better, that's a good sign.
yeah,
Now, if you're worse than your competitors, that's also a sign. And then you look at it like, okay, well, eh, they have some things and some things bad, but the things that were bad, like they don't really impact the
yeah,
overall security posture. but it could be something they could clean up. So then
Yeah.
you look at that as another data point.
Yeah.
So these are the types of things you have to take into consideration. And that's how I always look at it. Like it's a data point, no matter how you
Yeah.
look at it, it's a data point. And it's a tool like anything else. Like those that want to use generative AI and use those types of tools on their web presence. They don't lock it down to, hey, this chatbot that you now have on your web page,
Yeah.
you don't not lock down that knowledge base to only the things that it's supposed to say, and you let it say a whole bunch of other things,
Yeah.
that opens up yourself to liability. So maybe
Yeah.
you didn't think this process through when you rolled out this new feature. So it kind of you think like a threat actor in this situation, and you're like, well, if they did this here, they probably have done this similarly in other places. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something to consider.
Curb appeal. I'm stealing that. Be on notice. So lastly, so what would you see as sort of the profile of a business that could benefit from, fractional, security advisor or fractional security, executives such as yourself?
Oftentimes they'll have a technical team to help implement the day-to-day things,
Yeah.
but their leadership has been primarily focused on infrastructure, technology, availability, and they've kind of locked their growth because they can't develop that security profile that their clients are looking for. So they feel like it's now a business blocker
Yeah.
not to have that strategic vision, not to be able to tackle the types of requirements that their clients are looking for. So now they've gone to the market like, okay, I have someone doing some of the things to get me by day to day, but we can't get the other blocking and tackling down. We can't develop a more security focused program to make our vendors feel comfortable
Yeah.
using us as a supplier, using us as one of their own, whether we're coming in and we're offering augmented services.
Yeah.
If we can't show them that we have our own house in order, how can we help them get their own house in order?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, governance, risk, and compliance, really covers what I think is lacking with a lot of small businesses, because that's a role that sits above IT, right? That's a role that sits above operations. That's a role that sits above, HR. And what I think is unfortunate is that, a lot of businesses see security as an IT function. So it's really just, other duties as assigned to whatever IT resource they have available, right? Mature enough organizations might have an IT manager or IT director, and or even if you go to less mature organizations, they could have a part-time IT person, or and or local image, but these aren't folks that are thinking in terms of business risk, right? And I think that you rightly point out that, the market now demands that you manage your risk in a verifiable way. A lot of the clients that we've worked with on the consultant side of MC Global Tech, would come to us with, questionnaires from their large customer, right? Wanting to know their security posture. And very often my initial response is, you are not doing anything on here, right? So the question is, how do we get you from here to there so that you can respond, favorably? And market forces, do work, right? Do work. The work that we do in the defense space, we're seeing that from, smaller subcontractors. Why? Because the larger prime customers is flowing down those requirements, and they're saying that we need you to get compliant so that we can get compliant. So now they're starting to build and improve their security. Again, market forces at work. So how do folks that are interested in maybe having a conversation with you, about your services and you coming to help them, and how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me at cpf-coaching.com, or they could email chris@cpf-coaching.com, and I can help answer their questions. I also work with a great group on Alignable. There's a technology group there that meets every week, and we collaborate together on ways that we can help small businesses enable their growth through partnerships and collabs. As you mentioned, a fractional CISO is just that one person there for a fraction of the time. So as you'll naturally have to collaborate with others, that could be the MSSP, that could be a SaaS provider, that could be their local MSP that's helping them with their technology. So as a fractional executive, you have to be able to collaborate with all of the vendors in their space to help them together achieve the growth that you're looking to do, not just your primary client. They might be your primary client, but you have many clients that work with them that you also have to satisfy. And oftentimes, if you don't agree with one of those sub clients, that the relationship might not work out, especially if they're one of the favorite vendors of that client. So it really does become working as a team to help that small business succeed. And I've found that working together with great collaborators like yourself and others in this alignable group, that I've been able to find some great partners.
Excellent plug there for the Alignable group. Lastly, as someone who's been an educator for over 15 years, I can't leave without, commenting and sort of applauding the work that you've been doing in, workforce development and really creating a path into the space that we know and love for, so many over the years. So, can you share a little bit about that work and how folks can learn more and sort of, follow that work as well?
I wasn't prepared for this, but this is one of the books that I've written, the cybersecurity interview. We just completed our second edition of it, where we added even more work roles that people can consider as they're transitioning into the field. But you're right, being a coach, being an educator is just part of your overall persona. So I teach at a university, I write books, I've been doing a podcast called Breaking Into Cybersecurity. There's a theme there. I love to grow and develop stakeholders, and that's what I do at my businesses as well. Is I go in there and I figure out what's the best way to grow and develop the business leader that I'm working with, their stakeholders, because it's all part of the holistic process. So yeah, those are some of the other things that I do to give back to the community. There's a nonprofit that I support called the Whole Cyberhuman Initiative, where we find open source training for individuals that are transitioning into the field. Many of them are veterans coming out of the military. We help provide them with that guided path for them to find a way to see if security really is the field for them. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. They look at the skills and competencies that they've gained in other fields and see how they could translate it into this field, and if this is something that they want to do. So that's another passion project that I do to give back and help the ecosystem as a whole.
I'm all about pursuing our passions. And I think we are all lucky that your passion lies within not just cybersecurity, but supporting, the next, generation of cybersecurity professionals, as well as helping small businesses manage their risk. I think we need more of you. And I greatly encourage folks to follow up with you if you're interested in getting in the cybersecurity space, or if they have a business that is looking to grow and scale and they're trying to figure out, how can I look at cybersecurity in a way that's going to help drive my business, right? And to do that, you need leaders who are able to help you at that strategic level align your investment of time and money and security with where you're trying to take your business. And I'm not shy to say Chris is one of the best of them out there. So thanks again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.